Welcome to the Roncast, where entrepreneurs find killer tips, techniques, and tools to start and growth hack any business. Brought to you by one of Canada's favorite business personalities, Ron Davies. Enjoy the show.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Roncast. I'm your host, Ron Davies. Today, I want to get into two things. So it's going to be a little bit longer than 10 minutes if you stick around. But there are two really important things. And we're now on, what's today, 28 December. So we're coming up on New Year's here, right? I think everybody probably had a little bit of an unusual Christmas, right? We had a lot of restrictions in place where we are. Where I live in Southern Ontario here in Canada, about 2 hours-ish east of the city of Toronto. We have a lot of restrictions in place, and they were implemented on Boxing Day. So as we're coming up on New Year's, I want to just do a little blurb on resolutions and why they're a bad idea, right? So New Year's resolutions. I think this time of year, everybody is a little bit kind of retrospective. You kind of look back on the year. And again, 2020 was nuts. So know and understand that the hardships that were experienced by many of us in 2020 in terms of, income and loss of freedoms and liberties and rights and mobility and travel and all these things that have affected us, none of them are really our fault. And I know that sounds stupid. It's like, well, obviously it's not my fault, Ron. But the funny thing is that one of the guys that I used to have mentor me was very good with things around hypnosis. Guys like Tony Robbins, he sells by hypnosis. A lot of another part of hypnosis called NLP or neuro-linguistic programming. There's a lot of language that's being used in media and by our governments that is about making things that are wrong our fault as individual citizens. It's really not. All of this stuff is happening that's transpiring right now with COVID. None of it is your fault or my fault. So I want you to be going into 2021 a little bit lighter. Now, I've been asking some people, some of the subscribers that I have here to the Roncast have been emailing me at ron@theroncast.com and just kind of telling me what their Christmas was like. And if you're one of those people, thank you very much for sending it in. You should have a gift coming back. Just so you guys know, every time people send in a comment or some kind of comments or replies or questions on where the Roncast podcast should go, I always send them a certificate for a cappuccino or something at any Starbucks. All I have to know is if you're in Canada or the States, because they're two different gift cards. But a few of you folks have those coming your way. But what they've been telling me is that they had a nice, quiet Christmas. Most of us. And I feel every year around Christmas time, I don't know what you're like. For a lot of the dudes, a lot of the guys that are out there, you might have been guilty of this yourselves. I have been that guy that's out Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve, covering, better than half of my Christmas list on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve Day, and maybe at the earliest, the day before Christmas Eve Day. That's the guy, right? I don't do that anymore. I try to get ahead of it, and forgive me, but a lot of my Christmas shopping was done on Amazon because we just couldn't access stores. So I generally shop locally as much as I can because I believe in local business. I do a lot of local business coaching in different areas. I call it local business, but I've done it in 5 different countries. So, but it's local to where I am at the time, I guess. This year, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I didn't do a lot of local shopping. I ended up doing a lot on Amazon myself. Maybe that was the same for you. Putting my Prime membership to work to flex its delivery muscles. I still have things actually that haven't been delivered from Amazon that were for Christmas, but I understand. So a lot of people have been writing in and saying, Ron, my Christmas was really quiet. We could only do a little bit of visiting, my inner circle. So it didn't have that hectic, I've got to friggin' drive everywhere and get to every relative and drop off stuff in every place. So it's kind of weird, right? Because we went into this Christmas thinking, oh man, this is really going to suck, right? COVID restrictions are really making a mess of things, particularly a quote unquote pandemic that affects in a big way only 0.0027% of us here in Canada, roughly the same in the States. Everybody says, well, Ron, yeah, but 200,000 people are dead in the United States from this. Yes and no. I have contacts that harvest information for insurance companies, specifically life insurance companies. Nobody has better data on deaths than life insurance companies. Believe me when I tell you this. Your government, my government, they don't have anywhere near the access to information that the people do that have to pay out millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in life insurance awards and benefits. Here in Canada, I don't know about you guys in the States. Maybe one of you can drop me a message or an email. And here in Canada, life insurance benefits are tax-free. I'm guessing it's probably the same for you guys south of the border. So a lot of life insurance was bought this year. In fact, a friend of mine who's a regional manager for the largest insurance agency in Canada, he said their sales this year were up 37%. How many other business sales were up 37%? Probably some of the medical stuff, right? Mask companies for sure. The hand cleaning stuff, all the sterilizing stuff for sure. But life insurance, so many people were thinking, oh my God, this COVID thing's going to get me. I better go get life insurance or increase my life insurance. So in order for these guys to pay out, they've got to know exactly what you died from. And they don't necessarily trust the coroners this year because coroners are being pressured to kind of doctor what is being put onto a cause of death. So when we are told 200,000 Americans have died from this, I can say without any reservation that that's inflated by at least 75%. And by inflated, I mean maybe 50,000 died directly as a result of COVID. They were all older people or people that had high health risk. And interestingly enough, nobody dies of heart attacks anymore in the United States, or of diabetes, or of any number of sicknesses that people die every year from. Those were all put under COVID by the people that are pressuring the coroners. So what I'm trying to tell you is, even if it was 200,000, even if that was the number, do you know what that represents as a percentage of the total population? A fraction of 1%. And if it's 50,000, which I think is more accurate, not 200,000, at least the most recent information, it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. So really, nobody got this worried about the avian flu, right? And yet the avian flu had 50 times the number of people that were affected. Anyway, this is a rant. So what I want you guys to get onto is with respect to New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions, it's like the worst time of year. If you're going to do a resolution, you should do it maybe in November, right? Or at latest, the beginning of December. Because here's what happens. Everybody's got resolutions, and we tell, our significant others, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it is like, hey, you know what? This year, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to accomplish these goals. And what are some of the stereotypical goals? Like, well, I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to start to eat better. I'm going to start meditating or doing yoga or Tai Chi or whatever it is. But you know what? We're setting ourselves up for failure. And in an earlier podcast, all I did was extol the virtues of failure. Failure is a very good thing. In fact, it's the only stepping stone to success is in failure. But why set yourself up for unnecessary failure? When you take on a set of huge goals, I mean, I'm a big fan of that in business. Like if somebody's got a business idea, the bigger and hairier and scarier it is, the more I'm interested. Because if you're going to do anything, why do it small? Right? So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Ron, I'm thinking about making an app that shows you how to make paper airplanes. I'm not interested in that. But when someone says, hey, Ron, we're thinking of raising funds to try to beat Google at their own business, I'm really excited about that. Or, hey, Ron, We want to take all of the New York Times subscribers and make them our own in a new news station, a new news media, a new over-the-top. Over-the-top is what Netflix is and Disney Channel. Those are called OTT networks. We're going to create an OTT network that does this. I'm really interested in that, right? So the bigger, the better. But when it comes to personal and individual goals, maybe that's a bad idea. Because here's the thing. You don't need another huge goal to try to go after, right? 2020, like right now, a lot of people's goal is survive, right? How can I survive financially? How can I keep my shit together mentally and stay on an even keel? That's enough of a challenge. So what I'd like to propose to you is, if you were already going to do a New Year's resolution, I would ask that you just set it aside. Okay, forget about the New Year's resolution. Let's set that aside. And here's what I'd like you to do instead. I try to do these podcasts at least a couple of times a week. I'm sorry that they're not more regular, but hey, whose life is regular right now, right? You can have all the Metamucil you want. Your life's not going to get regular. So let's call my podcast Metamucil for Your Soul in this case. But I try to do a couple of them a week. Let's do this. Let's set aside the resolutions. And I'd like you to take the whole month of January, and each night when you go to bed, instead of worrying about the resolution, like, oh, damn it, I didn't start my diet today, or damn it, I didn't start doing push-ups and sit-ups today, I want you to just say, you know what, self, whatever your name is, self. So I would say to me, you know what, Ron, you've done a good job. This has been a very trying year. I want you to reach over and pat yourself on the back and say, good job. We're going into 2021. Let's keep our eyes wide open for opportunity and for positivity. And let's begin to shut out the negativity. Let's begin to have less dialogue about how much COVID sucks and how much 2020 sucked. And let's be open to the positive, because here's what happened. I mentioned my friend that does a lot of things around neuro-linguistic programming. He made a very interesting point over the Christmas holidays when I was speaking with him. And what he said was, Ron, when people are focusing on positive thinking, particularly just when you're going to go to bed, because I don't know if you know this, but when you go to bed, the last thoughts you have consciously get carried into your sleep and get processed all night by your subconscious. I had one programmer that was working for me full time, who is now the senior communication and security guy at Blackwater. And he used to, whatever problems he couldn't solve in programming or math himself, he would load it into his brain just before he went to sleep. And invariably, when he woke up, he had the answer. I don't know how that works. I remember Brian Tracy, the notorious business coach, saying something like that. Somehow, it puts your subconscious to work, and your subconscious is infinitely powerful. So what I want you to do is start putting that to work. Let's forego the resolution for now, and let's just make the first month of 2021 about thinking about the positive things, showing gratitude for surviving 2020, and a positive outlook towards 2021. And by focusing on the positive and focusing and spending your time with people that are positive and supportive of you, those that are not, those negative Nancys, the Karens, the bitches and whiners, they will actually begin to fall away. And I don't know how that works. It's very interesting. But a lot of these things that I tell you guys, it's not just bullshit I'm making up. These are things that I put to the test first. And tomorrow on my podcast, I'm going to share with you something that is absolutely unprecedented. And I don't know why I don't use it more, and why other people maybe aren't even aware of it, so they can't use it. But it was the way that I quit smoking when I had been a smoker for, over 20 years. And I had tried everything under the sun. I was in the military at the time. I tried military, had these programs called butt out programs, where if you quit smoking, they gave you, extra leave, extra time off. I tried the gums. I tried the nicotine patches. Believe me, I tried everything, because I recognized even then that although I had this addiction, it was not good for me. It was not going to be good for my children. I, at that time, had my older daughter, and she was a kid then, like I think 10 or 11. but I just knew that I needed to quit. I didn't want to quit. I knew I needed to.